All right. Thanks everybody for coming as usual. Just one trade today. Elmer Soderblom from Detroit for San Jose's third this year, and then we also signed goaltender Taylor Gauthier to an NHL contract. He'd previously been on American League contract with playing in Wheeling. That we feel will give us the 5 goaltenders. You just want to always be sure on that. And Taylor's had a great year in Wheeling. Just continues to highlight the importance of that affiliation and the way that it's worked out for us. So it's good on him. He's been in the organization a while, continues to stay with it and having a great season there. And so we'll get him signed and continue to loan down there. But that'll give us 5. We've been down at 4 since Philip Larson returned to Sweden. So we don't want to go in the playoffs and down the stretch here towards the playoffs with just 4, just in case. You never know. So that's that. I mean, otherwise, I think the trade deadline, people always want mass action, but throughout the year we've made, I think we've added throughout the course of the season, Chinikov, now Soderblom, Ilya Soloviev, Sam Girard, and Stuart Skinner to the mix. And obviously the mix has worked quite well. They've got good chemistry. Dan has done a great job coaching them. His staff have done a great job, and we just have to deal with some absences here for various different reasons and continue to stay with it, find a way, continue to write our own story regardless of what anyone expects of us. So excited about that, excited to get back at it tomorrow. Obviously disappointing night last night, but right back at it and ready to roll, and that's what the team's done all year, and that's what the Pittsburgh Penguins have been about all year. So having said that, I'll turn it over for any questions anyone may have.
Okay. We'll start with Josh. Just make eye contact with me.
Kyle, with Sid being out, and I think there's obvious potential Gino might miss some time, did that impact anything that you did or did not do in the last 12 to 18 hours? And what was going through your mind when Gino was involved in that incident? Did you think, boy, I got to change course a little bit here, or no?
I think you probably go through the same reaction, Josh, just to be very open that anybody that follows the team every day does, which is at first you're a little emotional about what the impact on the team would be, and then I think it's my job to immediately get away from that and get back to, okay, what's the plan? What do we have already? And in that case, you immediately go to, we've have guys that have come up and played well for the team at different points that are our own very good prospects. So it was rather than, okay, totally switch the plan, and you don't know what the repercussions are going to be. You don't know exactly how long Sid's going to be out for. So rather than being reactionary, I think you can't do that in this position as much as you may want to rectify that. And I think what it does do is it gives, we'll call Ville Koivunen up here shortly, and it'll give him a great opportunity to play up in the lineup and to get power play minutes. And Dan and the coaching staff have a plan for him. And he's obviously coming off of just being named the Player of the Month in the American League, and it'll be a great chance for him to show where he's at. He obviously had a great finish of the year last year after a great season in the American League. It had its ups and downs early in the year with us, and then has found his way back again now with Wilkes, and got big expectations of Ville and a lot of belief in him. So this will be his chance. Everyone always wants their opportunity. This is it for him, and he can run right through it and carry on as long as he wants. So that's in the end how we dealt with it.
Kyle, with Evgeny Malkin, there's been a lot of discussion the past week or so with his contractual status. Can I ask, what level of comfort or even apprehension do you have in terms of a potential contract extension with a player who, while still very productive, will be 40 this season, or this coming off season, has been dealing with an injury, as well as how that may work with the overall course you've charted for the organization in the last few years?
Yeah, I think that, number one, I think that the players here, it's not as though you're talking about any normal player situation in team. It's one of the most I think it is in fact the most unique situation in sports. Jen can correct me just in terms of the number of seasons that Gino, Sid, and Chris have played together, and how much success they've had here in Pittsburgh. So you want to be very cut and dry about it, and I think that's my job to an extent. You also, I think, have to treat them with a different level of respect, and the way that you communicate with them just because I think the team probably owes that to them and what they've contributed to the Penguins and to the community. In the end, we have to do what's best for the Pittsburgh Penguins, and with players that get to that point in age, it's not as, for the reasons that you've alluded to, it's not always as simple, and at certain times you may feel one way as a player, and then as you go through the year you may feel differently. And so we've communicated with JP, we've communicated with Gino. Gino's obviously communicated with the public, which is his right, and he's earned that. But I don't think it serves, as much as I think everyone in the room and perhaps the public would like me to comment on it further, I don't think it's in the best interest of the Penguins for me to do so. It's all been communicated to Gino and JP, and we'll just continue to stay in those conversations with them and continue to do what's best for the team.
You had a ton of cap space. How much did you explore taking on a cap dump or being the broker in a 3-team trade to take on maybe picks or prospects? Did you come close to doing anything like that?
There wasn't a whole lot of that. I think this year, Taylor, was different. There were a few times it came up during the day where teams called and said, would you be interested in this? I think because of the I know there was a lot of talk this week about the double retention having an impact. I didn't necessarily feel that. There was just, I think because the cap starting to creep up and go up, there just wasn't the same degree of need and opportunity. So honestly, I think we had one team call today that asked if we would be interested, and that was that. I mean, then there's cap space and there's budget space, and they're two different things as well. But we've and that's where we have to choose where to spend. And we elected to spend it here on players.
Kyle, you touched on this in your opening remarks. Just the deadline day, not having to go all in on the deadline day. Just how much pride do you take in the team, in the coaching staff, and yourself that you kind of are in a spot where you didn't need to be in that position in order to be in a spot where you can make a push toward the playoffs here?
I don't. For myself, it's none. I think all the credit has to go to the coaching staff, Dan and his group, and the players. And I think for me, the greatest thing about the team the whole year has been the way that we've weathered times that haven't been great, the way that the team responds when things don't go well. The latest example being, Saturday in New York, don't have a very good final 40 minutes after a great first, and then the team responds the next day against Vegas, it's a back-to-back for us. They're sitting here waiting for us, and the team always finds a way to respond, even with guys out of the lineup. I think the thing that I admire most about the players and the coaching staff here is that, if you look around the league, when different players are out of the lineup or different things happen in your schedule, or the schedule gets tough, it tends to get mentioned all the time when results aren't great. We went through that stretch in December. We had various guys out of the lineup at that time, Gino, Lizzo, and it never once got brought up. The mentality is very much, we're going to make the most with what we have, and I think that's Dan has led that, but the players have been right there with him every step of the way, and it's a huge credit to them for being able to stick with that throughout the year. But that said, we have our biggest challenges ahead, and it'll be the ultimate test of that. But I think that's also the most exciting part of being here and being in this position, is we have a great opportunity now, and we have to make the most of it and find a way.
You talked about him a little bit in your opening, but can you just speak a little bit more about what Elmer brings and sort of what role you envision him having the rest of this season? Yeah, so he's a player that we've identified throughout the year as someone that fits the group that we're, the age group that we're trying to bring in. He's got a contract for this year, next year signed, and then he's a restricted free agent after that, so he's got another year of team control beyond. He fits a prototype that we really don't have in our prospect pool, and that he's a very tall human being, and throughout the years and watching him with Grand Rapids and Detroit, I think the skating has continued to improve. I think they've done a really good job with them, their development program there. They just are flush with their own younger guys and high-end picks that they've also done a great job developing, and that's why they've got to the spot they're at this season, the management group there and their team. So he was someone that you kind of looked that might come available, and I think the things that have stood out to him throughout this year have been just the ability to forecheck, get it on the forecheck, disrupt pucks, win pucks back. And I think for us, that's one thing that we'd identified as we've obviously got the line of Dewar, Lizotte, and Achari that do a really good job of that, but being able to add a little bit more of that throughout the lineup would be
would be good. And then I think the key part for us is just the term and control, the ability to work with them, develop them, and try to have the same effect that the coaching staff and development staff have had on some of the other players that we brought in this year, and just try to, that's obviously been our thing, and rather than get outside of it, just continue to turn the wheel on that as much as we can and get the most out of these types of guys.
Kyle, did your place in the standings affect your decisions maybe to keep a couple of players today? And maybe a second part to that, will you turn some attention maybe to re-signing or talking about re-signing Anthony Mantha and Stuart Skinner?
I think that obviously the way that the season has gone, I think versus the prior 2 seasons that I've been here, I think the contributions from some of the younger guys throughout, but then the way that, whether it's been Chinikov or Brazo, Mantha, the rise of that the Lizotte line, I think that's led us to have success and give the team the chance to see it all the way through. I think especially since we've come back from Christmas, it's not just been the wins, but the way that the team has gone about winning that shows that when we're at our best, it's a very good team. And I think anytime we all get into this because we want to have a chance to win, and when the team shows itself consistently to be able to play at that level, even when things aren't perfect, guys are in and out of the lineup for various reasons, and they can sustain it. I think it just you get into this because that's what you want to do. You want to be in this spot where now we're going to try to put some pressure on Carolina, separate ourselves from the other groups, and we just didn't feel like right now was the time to begin to take that apart. When it comes to their status and free agency, I think they're all such different individual decisions. We've done Lizotte already, and the decision there, Dan, was just you look at what he brings to our team, the fact that he wants to be here and stay here, and then what the market is going to be if you don't go down that path with Blake, and it was fairly bleak, so it was an easier one for us, and I think now we'll continue to look at that with all the others. I think positionally on the wing, and we'll let the players, more importantly, now have this last stretch to help us get to the point we want to get to, which is to continue to stack up some wins and points. And we're in a playoff spot now, so let's use this remaining a month and a week or month and 10 days to get ourselves, let's finish the story on that front and get in, and then I think that'll only bode as well as possible for the guys staying. And I think in a roundabout way, they've all expressed through their agents or directly that they really enjoy it here and want to be here, and I think they also feel the younger guys pushing as well, right? And it's that internal competition, I think, that has also helped throughout.
Would you on Shilovs and Skinner as your goalie combination, and how that might impact Miroshov?
I think, their play, I think especially already had a tougher stretch there in December. I think you learn a ton about a goaltender when they go through that. And I think Stu, came in. Our team was not going very well the time when he came in, and then he was a big part in helping the team to have success. And I think both have played well out of the break again here, and continue to give us a chance. And each game yesterday, it's a bit of a strange game for a number of reasons, but I think that just the way that they've played and the way that they've played consistently, and I think Artie, as a younger guy in his first full year in the league, the way that he's taken steps and continued to get better, how it impacts both of the younger goalies in Wilkes-Barre. I think that's the one position that we went into this, when other teams were asking us what we're looking for, the goaltending wasn't an area that was of, and there was, I don't, maybe something comes in after the deadline here, but I don't think there was a goalie trade, or at least I didn't see it before I walked down here. So there wasn't a whole lot of movement on that front, but we had confidence in the two guys up top, and then we have confidence in both guys down below, both Sergei and Joel. They both continue to play well. Sergei, after being here, again, similar situation, had a tougher stretch late December, and then just rectifies it and gets on rolling. So we're happy with that, and feel we have the good depth there, and then Taylor Gauthier and Wheeling. So.
You mentioned the lack of movement on the goalie front this season. It just seems like there was a lack of movement in general. What do you think contributed to that general lack of movement on the trade front this year?
Probably the prices, I think. For the players with term, think rightfully the teams that have those players, the prices were high. And then I think there's also, just in my opinion, this year more than ever, I think there's a group of teams that currently occupy playoff spots that either they've been trying to get back there for a while, and so that they're not teams at that point. They're more teams at the end of their rebuilds that are now contending for playoffs, and so it feels like the window is opening for them. So I don't think there's the incentive to go all in per se or make a massive move. And then I think the other part is teams that are in the early stages of kind of their pivots and going in different directions than usual. That whether it's us, the Islanders, Seattle, Utah in that mix, they're pushing to get back there. And so I just think there didn't seem as many of the teams that have been around it for the last number of years, like that were making those similar pushes. And I know there's been a lot said about the new salary cap rules and stuff like that. I didn't sense that was a major. I mean, I can only speak for us. Maybe it was for other teams, but I didn't ever sense it was a major thing that came up in conversation. And so I think everyone would be more excited if there was a lot more movement, especially the folks assembled here today and the fans. But I think the other part is, I can only speak from our perspective. We tried to get the players in earlier because the types of players that we're trading for and have traded for throughout the year are either guys that are going to be here a while, or maybe it wasn't going perfectly where they were. So the more runway you have to get them up and running, rather than get them into the blender right now, coming in, playing back-to-back games on the weekend and so forth, could be a lot. So.
Two housekeeping items. First, Philip Hollander, being fully respectful of any privacy he needs to be afforded. Is there any more clarity on his situation? Is there any hope that he'd be able to return by the end of the season?
Yeah, we've continued to talk to Dr. Vias. So he's got more appointments scheduled here today and tomorrow. And I think the best way to handle it would be, from our perspective, I think we'll give a full update. I think everyone knows the situation. It's a blood clot. I think everyone knows the chance of how careful we have to be with it when you come back from that type of injury. As a young guy with a family, we have to be extraordinarily sensitive and careful. And Dr. Vias and the medical staff have handled it as well as you can. And what I would say is, once we get through these next couple appointments, we'll offer a more robust update and keep everybody in the loop of what his status is.
And Tristan Burrows, I understand he's considered week to week. Given some of the center depth issues you've had as of late, would he, if healthy, have been in the mix here? Just where do things stand for him as far as his development?
Yeah, I can say, I think, pretty definitively that if he hadn't got injured on Saturday in Cleveland, he would have been up and playing. So we've had that. Sometimes it bounces your way, sometimes it doesn't. But with Avery Hayes, I think there were 3 times where he was on the cusp of coming up, and then he had various injuries. And then Tristan, it's an unfortunate bounce for him, because he'd be right there and on his way. But we'll get him, we'll rehab him, get him back up and rolling, and continue to aid his development and put him back in that mix.
Kyle, goaltender interference has become a very hot button topic around the league. It certainly isn't going very well for your team these days. Do you think the league has a problem in terms of clarity and what is and what isn't interference at this point? And are you frustrated just by how things have gone for Dan?
I'll first say that I think that the job that the people in the hockey ops situation have is very difficult. I have a massive amount of respect for them. I think they're terrific. They all have been around the game a long time, players, and then in their roles, and it's a great group. I think for me, frustrated, yeah. And I think the reason for the frustration is if you just take the last 4, like if you take so if I go Saturday in New York, it's it's a slight contact, Anthony Mantha, and it's the presumption that if that hadn't happened, that he would have pushed over and made the save. Fine. But then last night in the Nashville-Boston game, there's a play where Matthew Wood goes in the crease and his skate contacts Jonas Korpisalo. Same thing, the puck goes in and Boston challenges. It stays, it's a goal. Okay. last night in our game, Josh Doan goes into the crease on his own, contacts Sealoves on his own, blocker and pad, and then the rebound comes. We have a guy on top of our goalie, so what's the defenseman's reaction? It's split second, it's bang, bang. It's not like there was time elapsed between it. The puck goes in right off the rebound. And then in the Columbus game last night, Columbus, Florida, they have one where Provorov pushes Boquist into the goalie, holds him in there. Their goalie spins around. He's outside of the blue, and that one is overturned. Ours counts. So the frustration stems for me in the fact that our guys in that room watch every one of these. They break them down. They bust their ass every single day. The head video coach is an Olympic gold medal video coach. And like, it puts them in a really tough spot because it's just tough to know. And so what's the direction? In the end, I have to give it in my role. And when it comes to a situation like last night, the team works their ass off, almost kill off the 5-minute penalty. We're right there. That happens. I thought for sure that was going to be no goal. I thought Doan went in on his own, contacted the goalie. Did Tanger touch him after? Yeah, he touched him, but barely. And when it stayed up, I was shocked. Usually I understand. I get hot about a lot of things. That's not one of them. Yesterday, I think it's the accumulation and the not knowing makes it really difficult, and it puts a gigantic amount of pressure on that staff that bust their ass every day and are amongst the best at what they do. And then, I don't know. And then it leads to further discourse. Well, the Columbus one, was it because they have a veteran coach and we don't? It just leads to many things that happen in the game that don't need to be there. I don't know whether that's true or not. I'm just saying then it opens up a whole other Pandora's box. So this is I've never had a huge issue with goalie interference. I think I'm probably at my wit's end with it, and it's tough to give direction to the staff. And in terms of the impact on the games themselves, I think, the game in New York, we would be up 2-0, 2 minutes into the game. Changes the course of that game. Presumably we'd be up 3-0 to start the second, and we lost 3-2, so we lose by a goal. Last night, the team's working their ass off. That goal, I think obviously that counted. They go back on the power play, and it changes the course of the game. And when you're fighting tooth and nail and the team is putting every single thing they can into trying to accrue points, get into the playoffs, all those small decisions have such a massive impact, not only on people's jobs, people's livelihood, the fans, the fan base, so on and so forth. So it's frustrating, yeah.
Did I miss anybody? Thanks, Colin.
Yeah, thanks.